If you're following this case and haven't seen the footage that came out of the chamber today, you need to start watching right now. Because what happened today was completely different from the usual congressional questioning tactics. Nobody expected Jared Moskowitz to be this prepared. This young Democratic congressman representing Florida is often overlooked in the shadow of Washington's senior figures. Next to Schiff's systematic document strategy, Booker's emotional depth, Kennedy's surprise moves, and Durbin's decades of experience, Moskowitz, from the outside, looks like someone simply waiting his turn. Someone understated. That misconception cost a great deal today. Because Moskowitz didn't conduct the kind of questioning Washington expected. He did something entirely different. And that different thing cornered Cash Patel in a way nobody had ever managed before. To understand Moskowitz, you need to understand where he comes from. Florida, Broward County. Someone who grew up right next to Parkland, who became that land's politician. Someone who fought for gun laws in the state legislature after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School massacre, who kept running into the system's walls over and over again, but refused to give up. Someone who defended the victims' families against the state and the state against the federal government. Moskowitz learned early how to stand against power, and he also learned what the powerful fear most. Not documents, simplicity. Powerful people can produce complex answers to complex questions. They can give technical responses to technical questions. They can deflect bureaucratic language with bureaucratic language. But they cannot give simple answers to simple questions. Because a simple answer to a simple question reveals everything. Moskowitz asked simple questions today. The hearing had started at 2:15 in the afternoon. The fatigue of the morning session was felt throughout the chamber. Cash Patel had been deflecting questions from multiple senators since morning. Each deflection made him feel a little safer. Each evasion reinforced his armor a little more. The afternoon session looked routine. Patel had relaxed. That was his biggest mistake. Because in the afternoon session, it would be Jared Moskowitz's turn. When Moskowitz took the floor, he placed a single piece of paper on his desk. Just one piece of paper. No folder, no envelope, no multiple documents, just one single, ordinary, white piece of paper. Patel's attorneys looked at that paper. It didn't look dangerous. One page. How heavy could it be? Very heavy, as we would all soon find out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like. "Director," said Moskowitz. His voice was young, but the storm inside it was not. "I want to talk to you today about a single subject." Patel waited. Epstein victims. The chamber didn't shift. This topic had come up before. Patel had brushed it off every time. Specifically, Moskowitz continued, about who those victims have filed complaints against. Patel was ready. "Due to confidentiality protocols and ongoing legal proceedings, I haven't asked a question yet, Director." Patel stopped. "I simply introduced the subject. My questions will come in a moment." Moskowitz picked up his piece of paper. "Director, let me give you a number first. 2008. Patel waited. 2008 is the year Jeffrey Epstein was first convicted in Florida. That year, he received an extraordinarily lenient sentence through a local plea deal. Far more lenient than what his career criminal record warranted. Patel didn't respond. This was historical fact, nothing to dispute. That deal was signed by the Miami federal prosecutor of the time. Moskowitz continued, and that deal was made without the knowledge of the victims. The victims were not notified. They were not informed of their rights. They simply learned that the system seeking accountability for what had been done to them had signed a deal by cutting them out entirely." He paused. "How many years have passed since 2008, Director?" Patel answered. 17 years. 17 years, Moskowitz repeated. "And in those 17 years, those victims are still waiting for full accountability." Moskowitz moved to his second question. "Director, I'm going to ask you a different question now. Did the FBI systematically document the testimonies of Epstein victims?" Patel answered. "Various witness statements were obtained within the scope of the investigation." "Various," Moskowitz nodded. "How many victims gave statements?" "Precise numerical data." "An approximate figure, 10, 50, 100? These kinds of operational details. Director, this is not an operational detail. This is the question of how many victims' voices were put on record. How many? Patel looked at his attorney. A significant number of witness statements are on file. A significant number. Moskowitz noted it down. Are those statements still accessible? Documents within the scope of the investigation, accessible or not? Classification levels may vary. So some are accessible, some are not. That would be an accurate summary. Who decided which ones would not be accessible? Silence. Director, who decided which victim statements would not be accessible? Patel took a deep breath. These kinds of classification decisions through the institutional evaluation process. Was it you who decided? No answer. Was it you? The office of the directorship. That means yes. Moskowitz wrote something on his paper. Thank you. The third question was built like a bridge over the first two. Director, I'm going to give you a name now. Sarah Ransom. Patel's face began to change, very quickly, but Moskowitz saw it. Everyone saw it. Sarah Ransom is one of the Epstein victims. For years, she wanted to speak. For years, she tried to reach authorities, and for years, she went unheard. She eventually decided to speak on her own. She wrote a book. She gave interviews. She told her story on every platform. Moskowitz leaned into the table. Did the FBI formally take Sarah Ransom's testimony? Patel didn't answer. Director? Regarding specific names of this kind, with the public, with this committee, was Sarah Ransom's testimony taken? Interviews with specific witnesses, yes or no? Patel swallowed. Certain interviews may have taken place. May have taken place, Moskowitz repeated. The testimony of one of the victims of the largest child abuse network in history falls into the category of may have taken place. He paused. Is that testimony still accessible? No answer. Director? Is Sarah Ransom's testimony accessible? The classification status of this material, accessible or not? Within current protocols? Yes or no, Director? Patel closed his eyes for a moment. Access to this material requires specific authorization. So, no. Moskowitz spoke without raising his voice, simply clarifying. Sarah Ransom's testimony is closed to standard access, and that was the moment Moskowitz made his real move. He picked up his single page of paper, straightened it on the table, and began to read. Director, I'm going to read you a passage from a publicly available interview with Sarah Ransom. This is not a classified document. This is an interview that anyone can read, that anyone can hear. Patel waited. Ransom says, for years, I tried to reach authorities. I went door to door. Every time they came back to me and said the investigation is ongoing. Wait, we're not ready yet. And every time I waited because I believed in the system, because I believed justice would come. But as justice was coming, files were closed, names were hidden, and I am still waiting. Moskowitz lowered the paper. The chamber was completely silent. Director, said Moskowitz. His voice had dropped, but the anger inside it had not. Sarah Ransom is still waiting. She has been waiting for 17 years. And today, here, you are telling me that access to her testimony requires specific authorization. He paused. Who authorizes that access? Patel didn't answer. Who decides whether Sarah Ransom's voice is heard or not? Silence. Who? For those who want to hear the answers to these questions, I'll say this. This story doesn't end here. Stay tuned, because every new hearing reveals another layer. Before moving to his final section, Moskowitz did one more thing. He flipped his paper over. There was another list on the back. Director, I'm now going to read you more names. These two were compiled from publicly available sources. These two are Epstein victims, and these two are still waiting. And Moskowitz began to read. With each name, the chamber grew a little heavier. With each name, Patel grew a little smaller. With each name, the phrase confidentiality protocols became a little more hollow. Moskowitz read 12 names. After each one, he looked at Patel. After not one of them did Patel speak. After reading the last name, Moskowitz closed his paper. "Director," he said, "these names are not names I invented. These are people who came forward publicly, who spoke, who told their stories. They asked the system for help. The system told them, wait." He paused. "They waited 17 years." Moskowitz stood up. "And today, here, you are telling me that access to their testimonies requires authorization, meaning they are still waiting. The system is still telling them we're not ready." He turned directly to Patel. "Director, when will you be ready?" No answer came. "Wasn't 17 years enough?" No answer came. "How many more years will these people wait?" The chamber changed after that question, because Moskowitz's question was not a technical question. It was not a documentary question. It was not a procedural question. It was a moral question. And against moral questions, no bureaucratic language works. Patel's attorneys could whisper. Patel could hide behind protocol. He could use the shield of confidentiality. But to the question, how many more years will these people wait, no protocol could offer an answer. And Patel gave none. That silence was the longest silence of the day's hearing. Moskowitz sat down. Not a single sound came from the chamber. The cameras turned to Patel. Patel was looking straight ahead. His face carried an unreadable expression, but his hands had dropped below the table, and everyone knew. Those hands were trembling. When the hearing ended, Moskowitz's name was spoken more than it had ever been before. Washington's senior figures had come with documents, with technique, with the system, and fought the system with its own weapons. Moskowitz had come with just one piece of paper, a publicly available document with names on it. And those names had done what no classified document could. They had silenced Patel. 17 years, 12 names. And the question, when will you be ready? Sometimes the most powerful weapon in a hearing is not the heaviest document. Sometimes the most devastating question is the simplest one. Moskowitz asked that simple question today, and the answer Patel could not give said more than all the answers he did give. Sarah Ransom is still waiting. Those 12 names are still waiting, and now everyone knows that the answer "we're not ready" after 17 years remains exactly the same. Moskowitz brought one piece of paper. It had names on it. And those names cornered Patel in a way no document could. 17 years. Still no answer. If you don't want to miss what comes next, stay tuned, because each of those 12 names is a reminder that these questions are not finished. And these questions will keep being asked until they find their answers.